Hello YouTube, this is Shirley426 and today we have a review of the Premium Bandai exclusive or P Bandai exclusive Mastery Gundam F90, the Mars Independent Zeon Forces type. So what I like to call it is the Mars Zeon type, or the Mars Zeon Stolen type, or basically you get the gist of it. Alright, so this has arrived I believe last week, but once again last week I could have technically reviewed it, but once again I had to go to a company like training camp thing, so which is why I wasn't able to build it and review it. So which is why I'm reviewing it this week. Alright, so just to give you guys a quick background on what this mobile suit is about. So originally there is in simple terms, there is also the Gundam F90 manga, and then in the F90 in that manga, this is basically a bit of the future of the Gundam series we know from the Universal Century. Not too far, but it's the point where like the Gundam F91, you know, everything has been, you know, the mobile suits are now are built a little bit more smaller compared to the typical size. So it's around that era at the same time. So there was the Gundam F90 mobile suit, which I have reviewed before. There were 3 units. Unit 1 and 2 were mostly used in combat and actual deployment. On the process of test piloting, I believe the Unit 2, the purple version or the dark color version of the Gundam F90 has been stolen by Mars Zeon and has been modified into this design. So the Mars Zeon engineers wanted to give it a more traditional Zeon look, so which is why they got rid of the typical V-fin Gundam head, and then they gave it the spike shoulders and some extra specs going on here. Now, mobile suit spec-wise, it is a bit slower compared to the original Gundam F90, but it does have more defense capabilities and more combat capabilities, which actually, according to the wiki now, is considered that this does outperform the original Gundam F90 at the same time. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So let's see what we got. So let's talk about the components first. So first of all, what you get, of course, is obviously the Gundam F90 mobile suit itself. I actually do like this design. I do like the overall style and simplistic look and the colors at the same time. So back in the Gundam SCG generation series, I still have the original PlayStation 1 CD, and back then the Gundam games were very different for the SCG generation. Not only you would have the story mode, but they will also add in a lot of bonus stuff. So there would be other trailers for other games, where they would put 3D SD Gundam style animations for certain specific scenes, and among them was the scene between the battle between the Gundam F90 and this specific variant as well. So definitely, which is why I'm pretty much aware of what this mobile suit is. Alright, so for components, obviously other than the mobile suit, currently I gave it the trigger finger hand for the right hand and then the fist hand for the left hand as well. These are the type of hands where you swap out fingers. And just want to point out the machine gun, while it does look like a classic old Zaku style machine gun, you know, that uses a bullet, this one is actually a beam machine gun, believe it or not. So yeah. Okay, so here we have the rest of the fingers. So number 1 here is the left trigger finger as well. Nothing too special about that. Here we have the other fist hand for the right hand, and then here we have the multi-purpose hand or fingers for using the beam sabers. Nothing too special about that. And we do still get the open style hands. Man, I am just dropping stuff a lot. So that's that. And then here we have the action-based connectors. So once again, the kit itself does not actually have any ports or holes for the action base. So you can see between the crotch section is actually empty. So you do need to attach this separately at the same time if you want to use it on an action base. And we do get 2 yellow beam saber effect parts, but one thing, you'll be only using one because this one only uses 1 beam saber hilt. And then we do get because being a Premium Bandai Master Grade kit, that you do get some water slides. So yeah. And then I'm not sure if the term leftover parts is, you know, suitable for this, but you do get some leftover of these cables and the bendy wires as well. Because these bendy wires now, I wouldn't say these are really important to the kit, because the way they all go in is in areas especially the feet that you don't see. And then yeah. Mostly around the feet area, so you don't actually see them because most of them are actually covered up. So yeah, if you don't want to use it, I think you should be able to build a kit without it at the same time. Now, being a Premium Bandai kit, there are some leftover parts, and mostly wise, this does use actually different parts, and the actual engineering wise, there has been, you know, some modifications done onto the mold suit itself. Hence, you know, obviously there's going to be parts not being used, but kit wise, some areas are basically the same as the Gundam F90 parts with the exception of the color, so which is why we do have some leftover parts. So number 1, here we have some internal parts. So here we have the original backpack for the Gundam F90, and then apparently there seems to be have been some changes for the back skirt and front skirt size. So yeah, we do get some leftover parts for that. That was the D plate, I believe, and we do get 2 of the E plates, so these are pretty much identical, so I will point out like only one. So here we have, apparently these looks like the original leg inner frames going on here for the joints as well. More parts here. This seems to be a knee section here. We have the feet, ankle, armor sections as well, and other parts as leftover pieces. So yeah, you do get some leftover pieces, but not to the point where it's, you know, it's a big deal. Alright, so let's see what we got in terms of stuff going on here. Now you might be wondering, like, hey, is the mission pack still compatible with this guy? The answer is no. So number one, the kit, the mobile suit lore-wise, the F90 Mars Zeon stolen version no longer has that capabilities. It has been fully modified, so it's to not use that, but it does actually have other, you know, aspects regarding that. So it no longer is compatible, because if you have the original Gundam F90, it would have a lot of ports. So number one, there would be this giant part up next to the leg. So once again, those would have a port there. The shoulders would also have a port where you can open up and see and reveal a peg hole. But once again, that is no longer here. Obviously, and also for the sidearms, there will be a part that you can take off and then would reveal a port here. But once again, not there. And the only thing you could kind of call this that there should be also ports for the side skirts as well, but once again, they do exist, but once again, these are very specific holes. So I think this is the only remaining one here, and then these are actually covered up by these grenades, or yeah, I believe these are grenades, or kind of like one of those launcher type things. So let me check if anything has been mentioned, because I always do get confused regarding these weapons, whether they are grenades or are they like one of those small missile launchers. So it is slightly tricky to talk about these as well. I don't think it's really mentioned on what those are, but yeah. So basically these are like grenade slash launcher type weapons, so these are explosives basically. Alright, so we've seen the basics of it, so let's see what we got in terms of articulation here. Alright, so and hopefully you guys you can hear my voice better, or the sound quality has been improved, because, you know, I am using a new mic here. Alright, so here we have the overall head. Now, I would like to mention on the kit itself, there has been no sticker been used. There are no stickers on this kit. So I want to point that out. So you can see the head here, the top head camera, the eyes, everything you see here, the Vulcans, the vents, the side vents, everything here is all color separated. So the eyes are color separated, the Vulcans, the side vents are color separated, the top head, you know, sensor, which has been the additional thing, these are all color separated pieces. So that is actually pretty good. And once again, I do like the overall, like, simple look of the head instead of the traditional typical V fin, you know, Gundam head style. So once again, it can go look down that much, up that much, and then 360 is also possible because of the way how it's connected as a ball joint, and because the Zeon engineers that wanted to show this, to make this look, or put a lot of Zeon references as much as possible, they actually added these neck cables onto this, on the inside part areas. Now these are just plastic, so yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Alright, now let's look at the arms or shoulders as well. So each of the shoulders armors are different, but the way how the internal parts are technically the same in terms of articulation. So you do get a forward and backward movement going on here. And then you are able to go 360 on the entire arm. And I would like to point out that the shoulder armors here, the shoulder armor is not connected to the arm, it is a separate piece. So you have to plug in the shoulder armor first and then plug in the arm. So it's one of those type of structures. And just want to point out on the side here, it definitely looks like while they do add the spikes here, this one definitely looks like some sort of extra thruster going on here. Although I'm not sure how this would work compared to the other side. Alright, so the arms, each of the arms do have the same amount of articulation, so I would just want to point that out. Each shoulder can move up and down individually if you want to do so. And then the arms can rotate 360 on its own, but there are two rotating points. Number one is the entire arm, and then number two is the lower arm here. You can rotate the lower arm like this 360. So that would definitely help a lot of in terms of posing as well. And then the hands are your typical ball jointed hands, so no need to worry. But these are, I believe the ball joints were kind of slightly bigger than usual, and then which is why the arm or wrist joint is going to be slightly stiff. So just keep that in mind. And once again, being a Master Grade kit, you do have an opening cockpit here. And just to give out a background regarding the pilot who piloted this guy was actually in the scene where the new Gundam, this guy was actually in scene of the Char's counterattack moments. He was piloting a GM 3, and he was also one of those mobile suits that helped Amuro push out the giant, axis going on here. So he was there, but once again, the moment he saw the green light, that defied all physics and power, that's when he started to change into like a really power craving evil guy. So that's the way how it is. Alright, so the main body, once again, you do get a nice ab crunch going on here. Side to side, not so much, and 360 on the body, I would say not really possible because once again, this back skirt is actually blocking the way, so don't try to force it. Alright, so the front skirts, once again, everything you see here, even these black dots here you see, even on this specific shoulder, they're all color separate pieces. I did not color anything, I did not panel line anything, so it is really impressive on what they did here. And the front skirts, now being a Master Grade, they are individual pieces, but once again, the front skirt may feel a little bit limited in terms of articulation here, but I believe which is why you do have this gimmick here, you can move the front area with a hinge joint here, so you could technically utilize that at the same time. So yeah, and then the side skirts also do move a little bit side to side, and then the back skirt does not move at all. And you can see on the back section right over here, this is where you can actually store the machine gun, the beam machine gun as well. And then the backpack here, each thruster is on like a plastic ball joint kind of system here, so you can move them a little bit individually if you want to do so. And then we have one beam saber hilt, so pretty much straightforward. You can plug it out as well. Just be careful when you're plugging it out. Try not to jiggle it around or try to bend it, because I would say that peg on the inside holding the beam saber is the most fragile part in this kit. Not that it's going to break immediately, it's just that it feels like the most fragile area. Alright, now for the leg here, once again we do get a nice side swell going here. This side kind of feels a little bit loose compared to the other side, but oh well. You can go forward about 90 degrees forward, backward not so much because of the back skirt, and I have no idea why this part is kind of splitting. I'm gonna have to check that as well. And then bend wise, we get a very nice bend going on here, and once again everything you see, the yellow here, all color separated pieces. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So in order to attach the the action-based joint connector, so you have to utilize the hinge system that's built in here. So you're gonna have to push the legs forward like that, and then attach the joint there, and then close it up so to lock it in place. So just keep that in mind. So it's not like the best connection out there, but still it works. All right, and now here we have the knee sections here. I believe this is the areas that you might want to consider applying the water slide decals, because this is the only part that is kind of missing in terms of color wise. Now for the, let me just pull out this section just to give you guys a better view here. So here we have the legs here. The ankle joints do move on separately, and then on this back side we do have this part that also moves individually for the thrusters as well. So the feet here, the entire feet, including the ankle joints, is a separate piece here. So you build the feet and up to the ankle joint, and then the leg separately. So which is why we do have a bit of a more mobility or joint here, and then we do have a nice pivot point going on here. Now there's no ball joints in here, but they're all just hinges and systems going on here. So we do get a nice forward and backward movement, and pivot joint is nice pivot is pretty acceptable. That's a pretty good angle if you ask me. And then feet wise, there is no toe bend, which I do like, because sometimes for Master Grades the toe bends are just not that helpful, to the point because sometimes they would put a toe bend inside onto the feet, and then that feet would just move on its entirely own, and that's not a good thing. Okay, so far we've seen the overall stuff going on here. I would say this is a very fun kit, very basic looking and basic build. So this would be also a pretty good kit to start out as a starter kit. Now the only downside would be that to some people this may look a little bit too simple, so that's really up to your preference. Now I personally do like simple design mobile suits, so that's just the way it is. Alright, so we've seen the basics of the kit. I'll be right back with the demonstrations with the beam saber and other stuff to mention, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So here we have a few things I need to mention. So here I brought out in a typical 1-to-1 44 scale Universal Century HG kit, and here we have a 1-to-1 scale. Technically, this is a Reborn's 100 because all my master grades are now at my parents' house. So the only 1-to-1 scale typical Universal Century size kit I have would be this one, the Gundam Lindworm. Not exactly from the Universal Century, but you should get the idea because it is still based on the Baowu. So yeah. So sorry for the inconvenience, but I am using what I can. All right, so there's a few things that I forgot to mention. So as I mentioned before, around the Gundam F90 period, mold suits have now been started to build a little bit more smaller. Just to give you guys an idea, the RX-78 Gundam is like 18 meters tall. The Gundam F90, for example, is 14.8 meters or 14 meters-ish tall. So that's a huge, height change from there as well. So the Gundam Lindworm, which is technically a build divers kit going on, but still based on the Baowu. So I would assume that the Baowu Reborn's 100 kit would be around the same size. So and they are 1-to-1 scale. So you can see the height difference, despite both being 1-to-1 scales. You can see the height difference as well. And next to that is also another. This is a 1-to-1 41st scale HGUC kit as well. So you can see the height. Change has been a little bit big. So if you're into also, I know there are people who buys 1-to-1 scale kits for the size. So I know some people, this might not be the best, pick in terms of size. But once again, I personally like this mobile suit, which is why I pre-ordered it. So it's really up to your preferences as well. So I'm not one to make judgments or such. So keep that in mind. Alright, so here we have the stuff. Now I wanted to do something similar as the box pose going on here, so definitely loving the idea of this pose. And then you can see the machine gun, or the beam machine gun has been stored onto the back skirt. The way how this works is it's very simple. So you can just, if you look at the bottom of the gun, there is a hole there, and then you have a peg here, and you just need to plug it in and you're good to go. So I believe you can also flip it around if you want to do so. And one thing I forgot to mention is the leg spread. So because of the side skirts as well, it doesn't really move that much. So going to the side is, not really recommended. I mean, don't force it. This is as far as you can go. So a little bit of downside, but once again, I think most side skirts do hinder. I think like whichever kid, whichever mold suit there is, if it does have a side skirt, it is going to affect the spread. And yeah, you know what? That's pretty much it for the kit. So once again, I personally bought this because I really like this specific mold suit. I like this simple looking variants. Now, because there's also the thing that the Gundam F90, I wasn't really too satisfied with the build. There were some aspects I was not the biggest fan of. So yeah, and this one pretty much fixed a lot of stuff that I didn't like about it. So yeah, I would definitely recommend for those who are collecting the entire F90 stuff going on here, the mission packs, the units. I say this would also make a very good collection onto here as well. So, and I would like to mention that for the manga, according to the wiki, there has been a reference of the final shooting or last shooting in the manga as well between this guy and the original Gundam F90. So yeah, if you can maybe recreate that as well. Anyway, that is pretty much it for the review. This was the review of the Premium Bandai exclusive Master Grade Gundam F90 Mars Zeon captured version. If you guys got any questions or requests, leave a comment below. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.